The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Hump Day in a Riv. And what a day it is. And
after a State of the Union address, which was the most biggest propaganda piece of crap that I've ever heard.
Well, not only that, I mean, some of the screaming and incoherent babbling, and even the damn normally, pro-liberal, cover up everything Biden does, fact check has basically said that virtually everything he said was BS.
Right.
Yeah, even them, you could say, well, if conservative fact checkers were jumping all over them, you'd say, all right, but you got to check facts are facts. And it was ironic because before he gave the State of the Union address, I saw somebody, an economist, say that food prices are up 20% from when he took over. Heating costs, fuel, et cetera, is 40% higher. And basically, he's done everything wrong. But I'll tell you, I only saw a piece of it because I can't,
it's like pluck your eyeballs out.
I can't. It's just too much. I mean, to watch them, the country is in a total state of chaos. We got millions of people coming across the border. We're letting China go, spy on us. Everything's in disarray from everything. The economy, and they keep talking about jobs, but they've proven again and again that the jobs, they're really not doing any good because the salaries aren't keeping pace with the inflation.
Right.
So it's, and that's the thing. And
the other thing is that you'll notice they're talking about jobs created.
Yeah.
They're not talking about jobs lost.
Yeah.
Because high-tech industries are laying off workers.
Sure.
I mean, even Amazon just announced, 180,000 people they're laying off?
And Amazon.
And that's Amazon. Right.
I mean, come on. And when Amazon lays off people,
right.
That's like the Chinese laying off the Uyghurs. That's hard to believe.
Right. But
it's all BS because number one, these jobs aren't being created. We got a workforce that doesn't want to work. They've proven that. Everybody's got basically for hire signs on it with regular jobs, and that's what disturbs me because listen, it's all about power and control. They're never going to tell the truth. You would respect them more if he said, listen, I have succeeded in destroying this country, and I'm going to try to turn it around now. But no. And the only thing is I don't think he told his corn pop story, so that was a plus. Because I'm tired of listening to the corn pop story. But while we're on, stuff in the economy, but I got one other thing. I was pretty impressed with what little I saw of Sarah Huckabee's
response. Yep.
Yeah, very, very, very well done. Mm-hmm. There have been a few guys that didn't. Rubio was not that good at rebuttal. It's tough to rebut after that because the fact checking isn't in.
Right.
But she did an excellent job. She's the youngest governor in the state, and I'm looking at her and I'm saying, why did they pick her? She might be a potential vice presidential candidate.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. That's the first thing that went through my mind because she just got elected governor.
Right.
And she's the youngest governor in the state. Of course, her father was governor.
Right.
And she's a rising star. And you'd say, well, unlike Kamala Harris, she can actually put a sentence together without cackling and making actual sense. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I thought of. It was a well-done rebuttal, but also she is pretty articulate.
Yes,
and
definitely.
I say, well, maybe she's going to...
And think about it for a second. The Huckabee name still carries a lot of weight.
Oh, a lot of weight.
A lot of weight.
He's very well liked. And,
yes.
And he carries weight not only in the South, which is a big, big plus.
Right.
Which is how Johnson got on a ticket with Kennedy.
Right.
But he also has a lot of weight with the Christian right, because he's a pastor and stuff like that. So there's a lot of like you said, it carries a lot of weight. So it's very interesting it's very interesting now to look down the road with our prognostication here to see if she's in the mix for. I would say without a doubt she will be in the mix for vice president.
I think that's a good prediction.
So, but now on to I don't know what news, but I want to talk about the Lincoln School. A TIF was given.
A tie, yes.
A tie, a TIF. Yeah, it's the same
thing, right?
It's just a different acronym.
That's right.
That's all. They're giving the rich people money.
That's right.
That's what that stands for. It should be, let's see, GRPM, because giving the rich people money.
Yep.
That's what it should be.
Yep.
Not the poor people.
No.
So, and look, this is a allegation. I want to start this off with it. This is an allegation. I got a couple of calls that said that our illustrious anti-housing for anybody that's not well-to-do said on there that this is going to be a great benefit because it's going to improve the neighborhood or elevate or do something to make this neighborhood better just because it's market rate housing.
Right.
He said market rate housing will improve. Again, that's the most, well, it's actually condemning people who are not rich.
Right.
So his implication, we know that all he cares about is developers, bankers, lawyers, connected people. He does not even, he considers anybody that's not in that circle fundamentally an irritant and almost subhuman. Because remember the statements, go jump in the Taunton River, you live in public housing, so somehow you're some subhuman element that we have to put up with.
If you like what New Bedford's doing, move there.
If you like that New Bedford, move there, and buy a house.
Right, and buy a house.
If you don't buy a house, you can't talk about anything. So regular people can't talk, even though this community is full of these people, and that is again an indictment of his philosophy. He doesn't care. He's adamantly opposed to affordable housing, in spite of the fact that's why you gotta love Fall River. I mean, we got our head so far buried in the sand. It's like we don't even pay attention to what the world's doing, let alone the country. Now, everybody on the planet has fundamentally said that the biggest problem we face now is affordable housing.
Correct.
But Fall River, it's like, shut up. We don't need affordable housing. Just get those people out of here. That's the result. Just price them out of the market and let's gentrify the city and get these subhumans away. I don't even like to look at them, the great unwashed. And that's the attitude that this guy has, in spite of the fact that, like I said, our governor said it's the most critical issue in Massachusetts for affordable housing for everybody.
Right.
Not just low income and stuff.
Right.
So with that, I'll segue into show.
Well, before you go somewhere, market rate housing is such a wonderful thing. Why do they need TIFs? Why do they need ties? Okay? If they're such a wonderful thing and they're going to make so much money on that, why are we giving them TIFs and ties? Why? Because they're politically connected and they're donating to political campaigns.
Yeah.
And that's why it's happening. Or they're paying Kenny Fiola $45,000 to represent them in front of the TIF board, in front of the, to get a tie, to get these things. This is not what Fall River should be about.
Well,
because that $3.7 million in growth that they're so proud of, remember, you're paying for that because
but it's
nobody else is.
And therein lies the rub. It's all perspective. That's not growth. That's investment.
Right.
They've invested that, so now the city all of a sudden is rich. But what happens if that investment doesn't pan out? Is that really growth? When these things go unfilled, as they will at some point in time, you know, when this T crashes and burns, and we had Maura Healey's puss up there saying you can't duck it now, it's crumbling. So what happens when the T says we're $100 million in debt, it's a disaster, we have to completely revamp the T, which may mean that you have to get more money from the feds, more money from the communities, more money from the state, and more money from the ridership.
That's right.
And then they're going to start cutting down on ridership like they took away from Plymouth. Who knows? Maybe in the future, maybe, I'm not saying this is a fact, but they like to have their theories. What happens 5 years, 6 years down the road when the MBTA becomes just a regional transit authority again, like it used to for metropolitan Boston? What happens when all these other spurs that cost so much to maintain and they don't make a hell of a lot of money on, and once they raise their prices and everything else, which they will have to, they'll say, we're not making money. So like we did with Plymouth, let's cut out everything outside of metropolitan Boston and the direct suburbs that they've always had traffic on, because people don't want to drive in Boston traffic. And also the fares are lower because the fares are based on regions and districts. So what happens if that happens? I'm not saying it will, so don't start, there's no plans like that. There's also no plan to fix the T right now.
That's right.
There's no plan to fix it.
And as a matter of fact, it was reported in Commonwealth magazine that Maura Healey isn't putting a lot of push on fixing the T.
Yeah.
She's taking her time.
Yeah, because they don't know what to do.
They don't.
The bottom line is that when Deval Patrick did the study, which is like 09, or I don't like, but we brought it up on this show. When he did that study, they said it was impossible to fix.
Right.
They said that it'll take hundreds of years and hundreds of millions of dollars and a complete change in the way they do business to fix it. So Maura Healey doesn't have a clue. And the only way they're going to fix this is obviously they've got to put more money in. They've got to stop doing things the way they do it. But it's a government agency. It's one of the most inefficient government agencies we have. So this is going to, down the line, we're going to see a drastic change. And it's not, but only Fall River, even though Mike Roderick said it wasn't the answer, and then recently somebody else said it wasn't the answer. And I forgot who it was. I can't remember because it was so ridiculous. It was just redundant. But some other politician said, it's not going to be the magic bullet.
Right.
But only for. But what they're doing is this is the empty promise they use to try to get support and reelected, because this is not happening for a few years. So right now we'll promise everything. It's like saying, well, we're going to be fine even when Diamond comes and all the ARPA money runs out and we have all these bills piled up. We're in great shape, which is a crock. And that's the thing. The thing is, you're tired of lying. But they don't care about the people. They're delusionary. You think they care? Look at the money they make. Fiola is alleged to be getting $45,000 every time he gets somebody a TIF or works on a zoning thing. So he's not worried. We know his salary was large. And so they don't care. But it's amazing. We have to get these people in this city who are having problems, which are most of the people, to realize that they have to go vote. And now, this is on channel 12 WPR. You can't, this blank thing was a picture of the Governor McKee. Doesn't come out when you print it out.
Right.
It was a picture of his press conference, and this is what it says. Rhode Island leaders outline affordable housing efforts. And fundamentally, what this said was, and this is a long one, feel free to go on Channel 12's website.
WPRI.com.
WPRI.com. It's on the website. We're not making this up. Even the picture of a McKee will appear there, in case you don't know what he looks like. So this is fundamental. I'm just going to give you, because it's a pretty long article, actually.
Yep.
And it's a pretty interesting article. This is what it says. Providence, WPRI. Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee and newly appointed Housing Secretary Stephen Pryor gave an update Tuesday on efforts to create more affordable housing in the state. They did so while touring King Street Commons, a 62-unit affordable housing development in Oneyville, in the Oneyville section of Providence. McKee and Pryor said they visited some of the homes and met with residents alongside one neighborhood builders president and executive director, Jennifer Hawkins. Now, an entire development dedicated to affordable housing. And Oneyville, in case you don't know, Providence is a fairly low-income area.
That's right.
That section of Providence is fairly low income. But here is a commitment to people, 62 units, all of it, affordable housing.
And it already exists.
It's not, well, they're going to, 62 units, they're going to give you 3 units.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it's not one of those deals. And then it goes on. The goal, according to McKee, was to highlight the work being done not only there, but across the state over the next several years. The governor said he's in the process of meeting with municipal leaders, and housing is top of mind for them. See? Everybody else it's on the top of except our mayor. You know, the only thing on his mind is who's the next lawyer I can get introduced to or the next banker I can get introduced to. And this is a quote from McKee. I don't believe there's a community in the state of Rhode Island that does not want to do its part in terms of expanding its housing opportunity in the state, unquote, McKee said. Well, I can tell you one community that's in the Rhode Island, Massachusetts area that doesn't want to do its part, and we're sitting in a studio located in that city, and it happens to be the city of Fall River, Massachusetts. For Pryor, who, in case you have forgotten, since I read the article, I stopped to give my little commentary, is the new housing secretary. It's his first full week on the job after taking over for Josh Saul, who resigned last month amid heavy criticism. Pryor said that while there are enormous challenges ahead, this is a moment of opportunity for the state. End quote from Pryor. Obviously, we didn't wish for the challenges that the state faces on the housing front, but has produced that mandate, and we must seize the moment. Isn't it nice to see a governor and communities understanding that there are people in this country who are suffering, not derelicts laying on a street, but people who are working jobs and are going to be pushed out of their houses? That we need to do this because the American middle class is on its way out with this inflation. They have to do something about it. It's being recognized everywhere in the damn country except here. And I don't want to hear, well, I gave it to the Catholic Memorial. I'm talking to the developers. You're not talking to, you're talking to market rate developers. And
giving them ties and TIFs.
Exactly. And market rate developers don't want to hear affordable housing.
That's right.
Because they're in here for one thing, to make a buck, and to get back to the 3.7 million, virtually none of that money's staying in Fall River anyway.
That's right.
Most of those investors are from out of our community, and they're going to take their money to their community.
That's right.
And roll it over to developing other poor communities.
Yep. And we talked about that last year, if you remember correctly, when we had the articles from the Standard Time and the Cape Cod Times showing that these Boston-based developers were coming in to communities like Fall River and New Bedford and even Hyannis, and were building market rate housing to push out the poor. Sure. Because they were getting TIFs and TIEs.
Which, by the way, a couple of years ago, we brought the study that said these things don't work.
That's right.
The only thing it does is make the people who get the ties and TIFs richer.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
And that wasn't from reputable or credible sources at all.
No, it was only like Columbia
and Princeton.
Princeton, yeah. You know, nobody, that wasn't, but I'll tell you, that was a really in-depth study.
Yes, it was.
Looked at. I mean, people, if you really want to get a thorough and objective look at what these and why they're not, pull up one of those studies, do some research, pull it up and read that study. Those studies go into the impact, long-range impact, short-term impact, and it actually is a negative. They've proven it actually has a negative effect on most communities.
Yeah.
And so, listen, we live, you know, I think soon we're going to have to invite the mayor of Wonderful back and ask him about all this stuff because, you know, there's only 2 places in Massachusetts that apparently don't see these problems, and that's Fall River and Wonderful. Mm-hmm. So, but, you know, it's just, it's infuriating that, you know, it bothers me when they look down at people and say, you know, they're like, they don't count. Our answer to them is just get rid of them. Get rid of these people. We don't want them. You know, maybe we can send them over to China and they can use them like they do with the Uyghurs, you know, to harvest organs or something, because that's all they're good for. They're not real people, right? They don't have any money. You know, they don't, you know, they might live in, you know, they might not own a house, as most people in the city don't, by the way. The majority of people don't.
That's right.
You know, they may not, you know, work in a bank or in a law office. And so, I mean, obviously, there's some kind of subhuman species. You know, they're not real people.
Right.
You know, as I said, here we see nothing ever changes. It's just a repeat.
Just go back to the tale of untold story.
Untold story of labor.
Yep.
Yep. You know, 150 years ago, when the mill owner said, "I treat my workers like the machines. Mm-hmm. I work them until they break down, and then I cast them out into the street."
Right.
Poor people.
That's
or
it.
that other article that said, "We are the rich. We don't care who's in office. We own them all.
We own them all.
And we are the government, and the hell with the poor people."
That's right.
And Fall River, and by the way, you should pick up that book. It's out of print, I guess, because it's ancient, but it's a wonderful book because in there's more than one reference to Fall River. Fall River mule spinner, who was living with a family of 6, like on $100 a year. And he said, "How can you live? You know, we have to go steal wood from the railroad and ties and go clamming and eat the clams, and it's all we can eat all winter." And it was like amazing that in Fall River, again, with all the richy riches sitting up on the highlands on their widow's watches. In case you guys don't know what widow watches are, they have them up there because that's just they were looking for the ships to come in the old days. They used to sit up there, drink their brandy, smoke their cigars, and look at all the peasants in the 3-deckers that surrounded them, where they paid peanuts, and then they also owned the buildings that they lived in and the stores that they had to go buy their food in. So by the time they got done, they made 100% profit. They paid them peanuts, and by the time they got done, the people had virtually nothing in their pockets, and they got all their money, whether it was they got it from their rent, from buying things in their store. They owned everything.
Everything. That's
and
right.
yet, who do we worship in this city? The Durfees and the Braytons. Yeah, that's because they built this city. They didn't, you know, they built, fundamentally, they were slaves. They were can't be slaves. They'll be, "Oh, you're not accurate. They did get paid." That's right. They were indentured servants.
That's right.
So we'll be more accurate. They were indentured servants, and there's never been, the only time the average people in this country will ever get at least some attention, and their problems some attention, is when the regular people in this country, who comprise the majority of people in this country, wake up and elect people who are going to take care of them, i.e. Florida. Look at what DeSantis has done in Florida.
Right.
And they're going to say, he's up. No, I'll tell you what. More people are moving to Florida proportionally than anywhere else. And the reality is, even the liberals will vote for him. He's the first Republican, I think, since the Ice Age to win Dade County. Why did he win Dade County? He barely squeaked out his first run for governor.
Yep.
And now he blew him out because the people gave him a term, and he went in there and he stood behind what he said. He works for the people of Florida. He wouldn't allow school boards to ram things down their throat like they do in Washington State, in Oregon State, and in Virginia.
And in Fall River.
You know, whatever. Yeah. But the thing is that he actually is working for the people, and good for the people of Florida. They rewarded him by saying, hey, I don't care what party you're in. You're doing stuff for me.
And that's the key.
That's right.
Doesn't matter the party. It doesn't matter their stance on some issues. What matters is, do they represent you, the person, the regular person? Do they represent you? Are they giving you your fair representation? And if they are, then give them a chance. Because if you've got somebody that's not giving you fair representation, like the current administration, okay, not only in the city side but also on the school side, we're not getting fair representation. It's time for you to turn around and say, I'm sorry, Linda, I'm sorry, Brad, I'm sorry, Joe, I'm sorry, Laura, you're not representing me, and as such, I got to vote you out. I'm sorry, Paul, you're not representing me, I got to vote you out. And my vote's going to be to somebody else. No matter who it is, give somebody else the chance. A politician is not supposed to be a politician forever. And guess what? Paul Heroux said it best. He did 2 or 3 terms as a state representative. He did 3 terms and an uncompleted third term as mayor of Attleboro, and now he's going to do 2 terms. He said he may do 2 terms as sheriff. But he has said numerous times, it is not a forever job. It is not to be made a career of. And that's what politics is.
And CJ, tell us what's one of the first things that Heroux did for his COs.
Oh, already got pay raises.
He's trying to attract more quality people.
That's right.
He's working on increasing the number of COs and recruiting people. As soon as he stepped into office, he recognized the problem and went right after it. Not like 3 years of the police department completely falling apart and having 3 different police chiefs, lawsuits, problems, down to 145, and it's like, we still haven't really seen anything. We still haven't heard anything. It hasn't had a press conference. We're in a critical situation. We got 145 police officers, patrolmen. Now, that's what's really on the street. I think, from my information, there's 150-something. There's 11 on long-term leave or running out things or whatever. It's like 145 is a pretty good ballpark. And he committed, what, 50 police officers out of it? And not 145 are on duty at one time,
that's
obviously.
Right.
But he committed 50 police officers to the library? That's more than a third.
That's right.
Of your entire police force. Look.
Well, that event is no longer being held at the library. They moved it to another private location.
Yeah, I hope it's Uranus, the planet Uranus.
No, it's being held at 45 Rock Street, the old courthouse, the recreation building. So they're the ones that have stepped up and said we're going to have it here. And hopefully that will eliminate the need for police and I doubt the protests are going to stop, but it is what it is.
Yeah, we'll have so much more to say about this on Friday, so tune in, everybody.
Yeah, I know it's getting to be very interesting as we see the political year starting to lay in. We have Colin, who's announced. Yep. We've had Sam, who's announced. We haven't heard from Paul yet, so. Well, I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Friday. Have a wonderful day.